Hey friends, how's it going? Today we're going to talk about the Subway food vendor crackdown and a little bit behind the aggressive policing that's been going down in the New York City subway in the last month or so. If you've been following the news, there was, I think, a second or third lady. You go around New York, there's a lot of people trying to sell you things in the subway, soliciting entertainment or churros. Yeah, churros, candy bars, things like that. There's people down there. There's an audience for people to sell things to, but it's illegal. You're not supposed to do it on the MTA. You see a lot of these dancers going around screaming "Showtime" or people playing the guitar on a crowded subway. It's quite annoying. I've seen videos of people getting kicked in the face. It rarely happens, but it does. Um, so right now you need to have a pass or a vending license to go sell things in the MTA. There are 111 snack selling newsstands. 20 of them are vacant. These are spots sold by the MTA. These crimes seem pretty harmless. But if you saw the video, I agree that they are pretty harmless. I understand both sides of them. But if you check out this video here, Rebecca Kavanaugh, 7:30 last night, four police officers brutally tackling a black teenager to the ground at 125th Street in Harlem. They're arresting him for selling candy. Let's check it out. I mean, selling candy, man. It's not necessary. Let's see if this loads. Maybe it doesn't. In the meantime, and you saw last week there was a protest 2 or 3 weeks ago. Went in downtown Brooklyn to jump the turnstiles. These are all connected. So Cuomo assigned an order to get 500 cops to crack down on MTA fare evasion. So if you're ever in New York City, there's constantly people asking for your swipes and people jumping turnstiles. If you were not aware, at least in the past when I was a kid, 15, 20 years ago, if you jump this turnstile, they were going to catch you. It's kind of slowed down a little bit, but basically, Cuomo authorized 500 cops to swarm the New York City subway system. The MTA has encouraged the campaign to crack down on fare evasion. The state-funded organization MTA is heavily in debt, but the push to earn more money has spilled over into an overall quality of life sweep that has resulted in many food vendors being harassed and arrested. So, pull that to the top. So, New York was in the 90s, 80s was known to be a very dangerous place. Government came in and had a very heavy-handed quality of life laws that passed, and some arguing that this turned the city around. Basically, it's like they call it broken. Let's see right here, broken windows. So what they call broken windows. Enforcing small crimes to let that know that there's a police presence there and they're not going to tolerate these things. And unfortunately, it tends to crack down on small offenses, but it's there to show bigger criminals that we're here. We're making sure there's orderly things happening. The one I really didn't like was about 2 or 3 weeks ago. I guess a guy jumped the turnstile and they made it into the subway, and they pulled the gun on. Everyone moved, and they pulled the gun on this guy for jumping a turnstile. That is freaking crazy. But I do think there's a couple things happening here. De Blasio says yes, they're against the law and it's creating congestion. I agree. I mean, you shouldn't be eating on the subway. Is just a no. It's so gross. But you need to. They're it's a state funded MTA. They're losing money. This is the way they're trying to make up for the debt. I think that using the police in this heavy-handed way is not great, but I do think it is also stemming over from the fact that there's been kind of like a stand down order from De Blasio from a year or 2 years ago with the cops that have been resulting in less aggressive policing overall around the city. This order from Cuomo is different because it's in the MTA's area, which is I think there's a little bit of a different jurisdiction there. But I think that this is also like a reaction to police being harassed very much this summer and into the fall. There was quite a few viral videos of cops getting water dumped on them. There was a recent one where they swarmed a cop car and pulled someone out of who was being detained. There was cops getting trash on their cars. So it's what I've been reading is that it's kind of like an unsafe environment. Cops are feeling it's an unsafe environment for them on the streets right now, so they're a little worried. So I think they got this order, they got this opening to be a little bit more heavy-handed to kind of like demonstrate to the public that for their own safety. And also, if you just kind of think about, we're talking about broken windows and quality of life. It is palpable in New York. The quality of life has deteriorated in terms of people living in the subways or in public spaces where 2 or 3, 4 years ago, there was just not allowed. I think it's kind of sad. It's kind of a mix between not giving a jurisdiction to have people move along. The homeless shelter, like I had a couple other videos if you want to look about homeless in New York. The homeless shelters are becoming less safe. People don't want to be there. And also mental health issues where, 10, 15 years ago we had, maybe even a little bit longer, we had mental health facilities to help people. But now we don't really have those as much anymore. It's like jail or homeless shelter. So there's not as much in between. There are some programs for halfway houses, but I think that this right here for the police and the MTA, I think it's kind of a mix between Cuomo's trying to they've lost $200 million, I guess, in fares. They put $250 million towards police enforcement in the MTA, trying to make up for the budget. I think it's come over. It's also blending into the fact that the rules aren't being really followed in the city as much in terms of like quality of life things. Even you just walk around like my neighborhood, there's more graffiti going around, and cops are kind of have their hands tied for certain situations to keep the peace. And I think broken windows worked in the past, so people think the cops like this, and I think it's also about their safety as well. So, is it really a big deal? I mean, if a couple of teenagers selling candy, man, come on, tell them to just move along and be like, "I'm watching you." You don't need to arrest them. It's just too much. It's cost us a lot of money. So, how much is this crackdown costing taxpayers? Given that basically everyone will eat on public transportation at some point, arresting vendors seems like a giant waste of money. I agree. But if you eat on the subway, shame on you. It's disgusting. I was going to work the other day during rush hour. There was 3 guys sleeping horizontal in a jam-packed subway and 2 people eating like giant, like freaking whatever, the lamb and rice that smells really bad. The MTA recently announced it spent, like I said, $259 million on cops to save $200 million on fare evasion. I don't know if that math really works, but the cops are ostensibly in subway stations to keep people from jumping turnstiles, but also crack down on any crime that comes across. I only ever got through pre-calculus in high school, but I'm pretty sure that means the MTA could save $49 million if it wanted to, and not have to deal with the headache of bad press around cops brutalizing churro vendors. I kind of agree. What's being done to help the vendors? In New York State, there is a pending legislation that would lift current cap on street vending permits. This is also kind of true, too. I actually found out from a friend of mine who has what are those cars that sell coffee and treats and stuff? There is a cap on the street vending. That's to keep congestion out of the way. If you go to other cities and other countries, there's street vending everywhere. I think it kind of adds some charm to the city of like you can get cheap food. Not everything is a $5 coffee or a $14 sandwich. You can get stuff on the street that's cheap, but it tends to be all kind of the same breakfast sandwichy stuff. So the cap has only encouraged black market permits and allowed cops to be more leeway to harass street vendors who are overwhelmingly immigrants and people of color. It also hasn't curbed non-licensed vendors from selling food. People, quote, people who want to vend are already vending whether they have a permit or not. I kind of agree. Who sponsored the bill? from Jessica Ramos, who sponsored the bill. So this is about legalizing those who are and who legally are, legalizing people who are already doing it, and protecting consumers for health issues, because you don't want to be eating some nasty food. And if you know in New York, if you've ever owned or been in a restaurant, they're very strict about food and health quality, which I agree with, which is great. I love eating clean food. So why this Subway vending crackdown matters? Overall, this is about the quality of life, not just not in the way the cops think it is. Yes, selling food without a license may be against the law, as maybe eating food on the Subway platform, but common sense tells us to just are de jure regulations that have little to do with how people actually live. Food vendors in the Subway is to throw capitalists a bone, an actual example of goods and services meeting an open market demands. I agree. I think that there should be some limits on permits and quality inspections, and especially if there's a demand for it, and you could make it possible to meet somewhere in the middle. You know, there is a lot of danger about throwing garbage in the Subway and things like that, and causing fires and delays. I agree. So, you know, we got to find a happy medium. And they also mention here, there's some people who have low blood sugar. They need to eat, right? And I'm kind of like, I don't really mind if people are trying to make a buck selling waters or foods, but maybe we could give them some more permits, and maybe the cops should not use this. I personally think use this as a demonstration to assert more authority, where I think they felt like they were abandoned by de Blasio upholding these quality of life issues that is visibly palpable over the last year. So let me know what you think. If you like this video, subscribe, press like, share it with your friends. You could go see one of these tags here or one of those tags there for one of my other videos. We just talk about New York City issues, real estate issues, and we kind of visit some places as well. But let me know what you think. Subscribe. Follow me online at Marcus Amadeus on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and then on Facebook, look up Marcus Schott Real Estate. I'm a real estate agent in New York. If you are looking to buy, sell, or rent, or you just have a question, just DM me and I'll help you out. Have a good day. Bye. Look at my other videos.